work-life balance is an artificial dichotomy that creates dissatisfaction.
I compare like happiness to the golden rule. Like the golden rule, we've heard, treat other people the way that you want to be treated, because most people want to be treated well. So that's a good start. The platinum rule, which I kind of attribute to more like joy, is treat other people the way that they want to be treated.
I think that is a healthy way and a constructive way to look at joy in life. It's not so much about what do I add to my life to be joyous. It is, what are the things that I need to remove so that I can experience more joy?
We don't have to put things on hold, and we can live our dream now. And it may not be the dream, the big dream that we've created, but what's a version of that? That we could start to live now, because maybe what we've created and imagined, we don't necessarily want until we start taking action towards it. Welcome to JOY², Live with Joy. This is the podcast where we get to explore the power of joy, purpose, passion, and fun, and how joy, when practiced intentionally, transforms how we live, work, and lead. I'm your host, Gord Carter, and I believe that when you live with joy, everything gets better, and I mean everything. And this isn't just about feeling good. It's about unlocking joy as a resource, one that fuels better leadership, meaningful work, and thriving lives. Each week, we share the stories, the insights, and the sparks that ignite more joy, because joy is contagious, it's powerful, and it belongs to all of us. So lean in, stay curious, and let's create more joy together. This is JOY², brought to you by Essentia Group. Welcome back to the JOY² Live with Joy podcast. I'm your host, Gord Carter, and this is where we explore the real human side of leadership, culture, and life, and why joy isn't something we earn at the end. It's the fuel that drives everything meaningful along the way. And today's conversation is one I've really been looking forward to. I have the pleasure of sitting down with someone who brings a rare blend of real-world leadership experience, deep humanity, and just the right amount of humor to keep things grounded and real. Gord Carter is the president and co-founder of L3 Solutions, where he works with business owners, executives, and leadership teams to improve productivity, alignment, accountability, and execution. Over the past 20 plus years, Gord has led teams through growth, complexity, and change across a wide range of industries, from startups to large international organizations. But what really stands out about Gord's work is this. He doesn't just help leaders think differently, he helps them behave differently. Because as he says, most leaders already know what to do. The real challenge is consistently doing it, especially when pressure is high, priorities compete, and old habits creep back in. Through his work with L3 Solutions, Gord helps leaders shift from reactive busyness to purposeful progress. From being the hub of everything to building teams that think, decide, and act like leaders themselves. His approach is practical, behavior-based, and focused on real-world results, not just ideas, insights, or inspiration. And at the core of it all is a belief that leadership isn't about doing more or pushing harder. It's about becoming more intentional about what matters, how we lead, and how we build habits that actually create meaningful success. And yes, doing that in a way that includes more joy. Now that's the professional version of Gord. Now let me tell you about the human being behind those devilish good looks that's running the show. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Gord both in person and virtually quite a few times. From the Achieve Business Conference to having him as a guest at one of my Still Center men's retreats, to now being a founding sponsor of this podcast. And what I can tell you is this: Gord is a remarkable human being. He's a family-first husband and father. He leads clients to real, transformational, sustainable results. And he shows up for people in his life in a way that's consistent, genuine, and powerful. And I can speak from personal assistance. He's checked in with me over some tough times regularly. And that means a lot to me. So thank you. I know I've thanked you before, but I'm thanking you again right now.
My pleasure.
Gord is also a man of incredible humor and character, which, in my opinion, is a dangerously good combination. Every time you're around Gord, you feel better. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because he genuinely wants the best for you. He lifts people up naturally. I've seen it, I've felt it, I've experienced it. And it's very obvious why so many people love being in his energy. So, Gord, you're a gem, my friend, and I'm truly grateful to have you in my life and to have you here today. Thank you.
Wow. Greg, thanks, man. That's a lot to take in, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's all true. It's all true. So, I mean, you kind of sent me a few things, and I wanted to add kind of my personal touch and just share, the human side of who you are, because there are times when you don't seem human because you're doing so much and you're doing things so well. It's, I got to take you off the pedestal, and I realize when, like literally, like when you put people on a pedestal, I mean, full transparency, because I've done it before, and I'll catch myself doing it, even when I first saw you, like. I don't know if I shared this with you, but we had that awesome first meeting at that Achieve, like kind of a little VIP dinner, which was great. And I just looked at you and it's just like you just exuded this like literally joy, confidence, but in a way that was like accessible. It was like not in an intimidating way, but in an approachable way. And I remember I was like, yeah, I gotta go talk to that guy. I want some of that. I want more of that. I think I've got, some of that for sure. I'm not criticizing myself here, but I wanted like, wow, it was just pouring out of you. And I remember you had your plate at dinner, you're sitting down at your table. I was sitting at a different table. And I'm literally, I'm standing there with my dinner getting cold. You're standing there with your dinner getting cold, for like 20 minutes. And we're like, maybe we should continue the conversation after dinner. But yeah, no, it was a great first meeting for sure.
You know what? I can echo a bunch of that. That was my experience, a very similar experience with you, meeting you for the first time, and it was standing in line for the buffet, right?
Yeah,
The first one, like,
exactly.
so, hi, I'm Gord. Hi, I'm Greg. Actually, I think you introduced yourself, and then we just hit it off. And same thing. Yeah, we're standing around full plates. 20 minutes later, being like, maybe we should eat.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, before we continue the 2 hour conversation that we got into after.
But your point about putting people up on pedestal, I learned that really early in my life. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of very capable, very powerful people in my life from a very young age. And I don't know where or why or how. I credit my dad and my brothers for helping to keep me a little bit grounded on no matter how amazing somebody is, they're still just a person. So like we've all got our amazing strengths and we've all got our weaknesses. I know it's not a word people want to use anymore. Our challenges, our gaps, our shades and shadows. But at the end of the day, we've all got both the good and the bad.
hmm I love that because it's funny because my dad was very similar in that, he was a senior level executive at GM for 23 years. But he never let kind of, his success or his position, kind of get to him. He was always very approachable. And he'd be the first one to say, like, we'd be walking and even in the school, and maybe there was a janitor there. He'd be the first one to go and, like say hi to him and talk to him and connect with him. And even just to tell me, that, hey, we're, even though we have different jobs, or different titles, or we live in, different places or whatever, we're all people. We're all doing our best, right? We're all, we all deserve to be treated with respect. So I never like, I never grew up looking down at anyone. If anything, it was the pedestal
Yeah.
thing. It sounds like you learned that. Yeah, you learned that lesson, sooner than I did. But I haven't put my parents' relationship on a pedestal, just because they never, fought in front of us, which is great. And I know I've shared this before, but it was also what a great way to kind of grow up and see the love that they had for each other. Now, we didn't get to see conflict being
I was
resolved. That
just
wasn't
gonna
one
ask.
thing.
I was gonna say, like, if this is too personal, I understand, but do
Yeah,
you
no,
do
all
you and
good.
your wife fight in front of your kids? Like, do you allow them to see the
We like, I mean, fight is kind
you
of
start
a,
fights for press? Just
yeah, I mean,
just kidding.
I would say like, I don't think we fight. We may kind of, argue. Fight just sounds a bit aggressive, right? I
That's
mean,
fair. That's fair.
obviously zero physicality, of course. I think
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
we'll let
I
them
didn't think
show.
about that. Argue.
Yeah, no, when I think of fight, I
Yeah,
think very aggressive. And
yeah.
I wouldn't say we're very aggressive with each other, even if we don't agree on stuff. But they'll know, like, if if Kim doesn't agree with me, or if I don't agree with her, we'll kind of share that, and we'll bicker sometimes, if there's a difference of opinion. So
Yep.
I think we're not doing the full out, well, we don't have those kind of, arguments anyway, the blowouts, fortunately. But yeah, we don't, share that in front of the kids, but we do share kind of conflict resolution. So I hope I've learned some stuff along the way. There's some counseling, some therapy, some personal development, that's helped me, kind of pull it all together. So,
I'm not sure how this this fits in, but where my brain goes from what you just said. So when I was a kid, my dad, both of my parents did an incredible job, but I remember my dad would make the time after a punishment or after a consequence, or get sent here, and he would come in. He'd wait till things were calmer. He'd come and he'd sit down and he'd have a conversation with me. Hey, Gord, do you understand why this happened? Do you understand why you're in this position? Do you like being grounded? No? Okay, what can you do differently next time? And my parents didn't argue very much in front of me either. But I guess he modeled how to reconcile after. I mean, we're all human. We're all gonna have emotional outbursts at various times with different. So one of the things that Krista and I, my wife and I, do have a disagreement. We actually make sure that our daughter's around. We make sure that our daughter gets pulled into the I guess the reconciliation afterwards, so that we can help to show her that, hey, you can have a disagreement on something, totally okay. Does not affect how much you love the person, doesn't affect how much you like the person, doesn't affect. And here are some ways that you can then, after the fact, go and deal with reconciliation and bridge the gap that may have been caused by the conflict.
I love it. I think that's very healthy to kind of showcase that, because where else are they going to learn it,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like,
have the schoolyard.
I mean, me with friends. I mean, it depends what age, right? But not always with
Yeah,
with friends. I mean, usually, when you're growing up, a lot of kids, it's all about themselves typically,
yep.
until you start to kind of realize that it isn't, just all about you. And there's some other stuff going on. But one thing I think I'm really good at, it took me a while, is when when there's, let's say, misdirected frustration or misdirected anger, and maybe I take it out on one of my kids and I just say something, or I'm not as patient as I usually am, or as understanding. And if I do something like that where they didn't deserve it, they didn't do anything to
Yeah,
deserve it, then I don't do it as often. I don't think I did it a lot before, but I do it less often. But when I do it, I apologize really quickly,
yeah.
and I just said, "Hey, listen, that had nothing to do with you. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that," and yeah, that was me. I'm, making a mistake, and learning from it. And even my son Beck, he said, actually, it was last week. He said, "Dad, sometimes you apologize to me for things that I didn't even really think you kind of did wrong, or I didn't think you were mad at me or taking anything out at me. He's like, I'm trying to figure it out, but he goes, I always appreciate it, but sometimes he doesn't always remember it. So
That's the Canadian in you.
that's
Just
right.
the additional apology on top of.
Oh, it's so good. All right, well, let's dive into some more. That was a great kind of intro, and a great start to the conversation. I got a few questions I'll ask you. So I know you got a lot going on, right? I mean, supporting leaders, showing up for your family, building your business, and all that. So, what made you say yes to being a founding sponsor of the podcast?
Oh,
Let's start there.
at the risk of making this a bro fest, it was you, man. It really it was from that conversation when we first met. It was all of our subsequent conversations. The text messages back and forth. I think my recollection is when we first met, you were talking about a book that you'd like to do. You had your retreats that you were working on, but you were also doing some brand work and some consulting and supporting leaders, and really trying to help people to understand the power that joy has. And it swept me up. Yeah, your energy pulled me in. So I think there's also, I feel as though right now in the world, there's a lot of kind of darkness and heaviness. And every time you turn around, there's another existential threat to humanity. And um, we also tend to live in a world that is focused on distraction. So whether it's devices, whether it's YouTube and podcasts, whether it's whatever it is, um, and it's really easy to get pulled away from things that are grounded, that are joyous, that are happy, that are fun. And so I wanted to be part of that. Like when I remember exactly when you told me, "Hey, I'm doing this podcast." I was talking to you. I was in my backyard. I was out in nature, socks off, walking through the lawn, like just doing, which I often do.
Right.
You might not know this. I often, when you and I chat, I often go into the sun and I walk around.
Oh, wow.
One
Okay. Oh, that's amazing.
of my
And you're grounded in a different way, not like when you were a kid when your dad used to ground you, but you're ground. It's a different kind of grounded, which I prefer
I
the.
feel like I should go back and be like, I wasn't grounded that often. Maybe I was. I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt
So yeah, so that the and actually, as we chat about this, maybe now's a decent time to talk about. I think there's a really important distinction to be made between happiness and joy. I think they get interchanged, which they should not. I think they are two, they might be connected or they might be a Venn diagram where they overlap a little bit, but they are different things. And I think happiness it's a fleeting emotional state. Then there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it is fantastic. But I don't think you can have happiness without also having sadness or pain or some negative, things that we associate negatively, emotionally. Whereas I think joy is foundational. I think there's a stability to it. I don't think that you create joy. I'm thinking this through as I say this. You know me, I'm a verbal processor. Um, but I think the way that I use the word, the way that I understand the concept of joy is there's something more foundational, more long term, more solid to it. It's not a feeling in and of itself that you're chasing. I think we can access it through a more purposeful orientation to the way that we live our lives. I don't know if I'm going off on going
No, no. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, the whole, this is JOY², so we're talking about joy.
I'd love your thoughts on it because I know I've texted with you a
Yeah.
little bit as we've known each other, just kind of like noodling. Like, how would you define like what is the difference? How would you play with?
Yeah, I think you really nailed it as far as, I mean, happiness to me is conditional and circumstantial, and it is fleeting. Um, and I think joy is something that's kind of part of everyone, and I think we can access it, and there's different ways, to access it. And I think you can create it, and I think you can cultivate it, right? But it's accessing that. I guess one example is like, if you're at a funeral or a celebration of life, you're probably not happy about someone passing, right? But you can still experience a level of joy
Yeah.
in knowing that person and having all those memories, right? So you're grieving, but there still is some joy in some celebration in their life, right? Where you're not, whereas you're not going to be happy when you're there, and it's like, what is that bare naked lady sooner, that bare naked lady song where it's like, if have you ever laughed at a funeral? If
Yes.
not, you soon will. Because it's like one of those things you don't want to do, but and maybe not at a funeral, depending on the service and,
Yeah.
and the mood, but often at a celebration of life. I mean, you do hear a lot of laughter.
Yeah.
There's the sadness, the grieving, and also sharing those stories, right,
Yeah.
and remembering the person for who they are. And here's something too with joy versus happiness. I'm probably not going to write a book on that because I think if you're building a happy culture, you're building a joyful culture, you're building a positive culture to take it into, the corporate
Yeah.
world. I think all those are good,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to create an environment where people are comfortable and they want to come to work and they feel safe and they feel respected
Yeah.
and, heard and seen and valued, all those amazing things. And so I look at, in that context, I look at happiness and joy as almost like the golden rule and the platinum rule, where the golden rule we've heard, I compare like happiness to the golden rule. Like the golden rule, we've heard treat other people the way that you want to be treated
Mhm.
because most people want to be treated well. So that's a good start. The platinum rule, which I kind of attribute to more like joy, is treat other people the way that they want to be treated.
Yeah.
So it's another level, right? And I think there's something really deep. And I think, leading with joy, living with joy, working with joy, being intentional about it versus it being a result, which is more happiness.
Yeah.
Like if I do this, then I'm going to be happy. If I work out 3 days a week, that's a reminder of myself right now. Note to self. This isn't a note to you. There's no, when you point the finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing right back at you. So you know how I point now, which is all five fingers going right out. There's nothing. Just Just so there's nothing coming back to me. No, no, I wanted to come back to me anyway. But yeah, that's kind of how that's the comparison that that I make. But I think it's a good conversation to have because I think it helps just define for people the difference and maybe what it means to them. I think most importantly, what does it mean to you? And you kind of shared that, which I love. So
I've been toying with or playing with over the last few weeks. So listening to some of your other podcasts and obviously knowing that we were going to meet, I've been really playing with this concept, and I'm there's a connection here that I haven't fully formed, but it is something around the connection between joy and peace. Uh, and I don't necessarily mean the cliched kind of like world peace, whatever, but I mean like actual peacefulness, and how that overlaps with or is connected to joyfulness, and where does it sit? Like I said, I haven't figured it out yet, but it's been a really interesting because I think something you said triggered something in me, which is happiness can be an end result of living a more joyous life, right? Like it can be um, and you're not, or not analogy, your example of going to a funeral and feeling joy while feeling sadness. And, there's a whole bunch of different, experiences that we have like that. I think there's something there around peace and peacefulness. Maybe it's linked to living, again, stereotypical and cliche, but living in the present, right? Living in the moment, and that's where you can really discover joy.
I totally agree. I think that you kind of said the being present part before I did. That was because I think to really experience that kind of full body, undeniable joy, like you've got to be present,
Yeah.
right? And I think in being present, you're also kind of you experience that that peacefulness often because to have that full body joy, even like last week, we're in the process of moving, so it's a lot of there's a lot of reasons not to be joyful
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a lot of distractions. But I mean, really it's being intentional and where are those moments, and going through the stuff and finding really cool things maybe I haven't seen in a while and reminiscing or just having conversations with the kids. And I remember just like sitting at the dining room table and Beck and Tabitha, my two kids were sitting on the couch and kind of like up next to each other and just kind of laughing and talking. And I was like, wow. So, I mean, just being present, being able amongst all of the kind of, excuse me, like kind of a bit of chaos right now, organized chaos, of course, but because that's how I'm wired. But, amidst all that, I mean, just being able to be present enough to notice that
Mm.
and really to feel it, like it was just real. It was a very joyful moment for me to say like, wow, okay, in the midst of this transition, we're creating these moments and I'm noticing these moments. So, and I think in feeling it, you're right, there's a real peacefulness there because in that moment, I'm not thinking about all the distractions. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about my to-do list. I'm not thinking about, the stress of moving and selling and all those things, right? Which that could be a whole list in itself. I mean, it was like, wow, okay, I can feel it. And that felt good, right?
Yeah.
And this is a good kind of maybe segue for, like how do you kind of create and cultivate that feeling of joy? Like how do you access it? I'd love to hear, in your personal life, maybe as a start,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you
Well,
do?
it's funny you say that because I am, and maybe we'll get to this at some point in our conversation. I'd really like to. I don't separate work, life, personal, non-personal. And the main reason that I don't is because I am a holistic human living a holistic experience. So if I start to separate, it's in the separation that there is so much opportunity for dysregulation, for unhappiness, for like it's actually living as a total person contextually, right? I'm a different person now than I was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. When I'm in my 70s, I will be a different person then. This is not answering your question, so I'll come back to it. Specifically, it's I live in my body. So I
Yeah.
am I'm a Gemini, which means
Mhm.
that I can see both sides of every situation. No, what it really
Right.
means is I have two thoughts on everything. So one of the things
Right.
that I've had to figure out, I'm being a bit playful with that. But I have a very rational mental side of me, and I have a very physical and experiential side of me. They are not two different sides, but for some reason, conceptually in my brain, that's the way that I have viewed myself for a lot of my life. So this comes right back to, so the way that I cultivate, the way that I live it, is I try to live as physically and as presently as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that I ignore my thoughts or ignore my emotions or ignore but what it means is I try not to separate too much, because when I am being purposeful, I tend to go into my head, and I tend to be able to think my way through situations, and then I will forget the importance of movement or being present. Because when I'm in my head, I'm not as present in the moment. If you
Yeah,
think
for sure.
about,
Yeah.
think about, and
Same here.
I learned this really in my late teens and in my 20s with things like kung fu and meditation and stuff, where
Mhm.
the whole reason for having whether it's Zen, Buddhism, moving meditation, where you're literally
Right.
meditating as you walk, but even when you're doing the kind of meditation where you sit and you don't physically move, you're focused on things like breathing, at least to start, and where things are feeling in
Mhm.
your body, right? And because it's really hard to think about the grocery list when you're like, oh, there's a tweak in my back from this lotus position I'm in, or whatever it is. So,
Right.
yeah, coming back to your question specifically, I try to live as
Mhm.
physically as I can.
Yeah.
Um, I've figured out early on in my life that I have some physical tells when I am stressed, or out of the present moment, right? I get
Mhm.
a grumbly ball in my stomach. It's not related to food or any of that stuff, but I can feel that like kind of tight knot in the pit of the
Mhm.
stomach. I can feel the hunch in the shoulders as things come up. Like I can feel that sort of stuff. And those become physical cues to say, hold on a sec, what's going on here, and how do I pull back a little bit, and try to live a little bit more in the moment and access the joy that's here.
Right. I love that.
I think so that's the physical answer. From the more mental
Mhm.
answer, it's I'm continually trying to learn how to let go of expectations.
Wow.
So is that,
Okay,
yeah,
this
go
is
ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, no. I mean,
I'm running
I
a
play.
monologue here.
I've yeah. This is a whole. No, no, no. I mean, just I can't wait for to hear how you do because I've asked probably 100 people, literally 100 people at least, like, how do you let stuff go? And expectations is one of them. Like maybe something happened or whatever. So a lot of different answers. I mean, and I'll share kind of what I do, but I'd love to hear yeah, how do you deal with expectations? Because I think a friend of mine said, what's his thing? Expectations or disappointment is unfulfilled expectations or something along those
Yeah.
lines. But anyway, it's like setting ourselves up. And I think, and I'll share something else after what you share.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, yeah, feel free. Um, if it's top of mind, let it go.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. The well, expectations versus agreements. I think it's a powerful
Oh,
distinction.
okay.
Because let's say I have an expectation of you, but I haven't shared it with you. So I'm sitting, and it could be something as simple as we're meeting, and my expectation is you show up on time, right? Just because, you respect my time, I respect your time, and unless something comes up and you give me a heads up or whatever. And that's a really basic example, but I think most problems in our personal lives and our business lives are from expectations of other people,
I agree.
right? And not verbalizing those
Yep.
because when we verbalize them, then we have an opportunity. Because someone may say, "Are you kidding me? Like, there's no way I'm going to do that," or like it may be so far fetched from what they want to do or feel comfortable doing or
And
whatever, right? It might be pushing some of their boundaries or buttons and so I think, but by sharing expectations with people in your personal life and your business life, you then have an opportunity to negotiate, to share what works, what doesn't, and then you create an agreement that you both agree
yeah,
on, right? Because let's say if I have an expectation on you and you happen to fulfill it, it's still in the back of my mind, like, yeah, you fulfilled it. You're on time that one time, but are you going to be on time the next time? And I know it's not the best example, but that's one
it's a good
example.
illustration. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing, and I love your just on the personal and business and how you don't compartmentalize. I love that because I'm a firm believer that how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Yeah.
So who you are in your personal life is who you are in your business life, right? So,
Yeah, and I do think that there are a lot of people that run into problems when they try to separate different aspects of their life. So I'll go on a tangent and then I will come back to the expectation piece. Um, but one of the things, so I'm going to go back 20, 25 years, in my career. Shortly after university, come out into the working world, and the big new catchphrase that's coming out is work-life balance. And I was very lucky to work at a company where they brought in different training and development opportunities on a fairly regular basis. But one of them was a 2-day workshop all around work-life balance. And here I am, I'm my early 20s, and it didn't it didn't feel right, and I couldn't articulate it for a while. And then I progress in my career. I start managing people. Work-life balance becomes this very large, loud thing in our world, in our culture. And as I said earlier, I'm relatively mental, so I start to think through, like, okay, so where's this coming from? Why do you think it's there? Why is it catching on? Why doesn't it resonate with me? What's going on here? Why am I the odd person out? Like everybody else, it's like work-life balance this, work-life balance that. And I'm like, but this doesn't. And in my late 20s, it dawned on me, and I thought about writing a book, but I was too insecure, so I didn't at the time. But it's been in the back of my pocket and my intention is in the next 2 years, I will have written. It'll be out, and now whether or not, oh shoot, now I just made it public.
yeah, oh yeah,
Commitment to
we
you on this one.
we won't
Um,
be editing this out. We're probably not editing anything out, actually.
but the book will not necessarily be long, because I don't think it needs to be. And the concept is
Mm,
this: work-life balance is an artificial dichotomy that creates dissatisfaction. If you have
mm,
work here and life here, then
mhm.
then almost by definition, this is the thing you have to do, but you want to do this because life is what we all want to
Yeah,
do.
right.
Um, and so the joke that I made early on was like, well, nobody has and this like goes back, right? So nobody has a Game of Thrones life balance. Nobody has a hockey life balance. Nobody has a video game life or a spouse wife life balance or whatever. But some reason we put work over here and life over here. And it was probably in reaction to something at some point in the culture around people feeling they didn't have enough freedom or they didn't have enough control over their life or something like that. But I think it was as a fellow godless marketer, I think it's something that we did. Marketing was like, oh, this is great, and we can create a whole industry around this. But it should be life balance. What is important to me and where I'm going to invest my time when I am a teenager versus when I am 50, when I am at the beginning of my career versus middle or end of my career, when I'm single versus married versus having, a father or being a father, having kids. The focus is going to be different, and therefore my balance will be different. And I think when we're looking at, there's so many of these examples I feel in the world right now, and it's a little frustrating for me being in leadership development and coaching and helping, is because there's all these great surface level, almost platitudes. And we need to be looking a little bit deeper, not just, hey, that sounds really good, but what does it actually mean? And language impacts the way we think and the way that we approach, right? And I very much, which is, I guess, why I wanted to start with, hey, let's define joy versus happiness in this conversation. Um, and so if we're walking around with this idea that I got to have this versus this to be happy, right? That's the end goal, is I want to be. Well, we're never going to get there. Versus, what is the balance that I am striving to maintain in my life? Because you never achieve balance. The second you have it, you don't anymore. The nature of balance is,
It's like the horizon. We can see it, but we
well,
can never get it.
yes,
Yeah, right. It's like you keep walking towards it, but you can never actually get it. It's, that spot where,
yeah,
land meets the kind of the sky, so to speak. That's what it looks like. But yeah, we can never get there.
ah,
But it's like progress versus perfection. I think the horizon can be,
yes,
the analogy is perfection. So how do we just continue to learn and move forward for sure?
yeah. A little bit.
And access more joy in our lives and because there's just so much suffering too. I mean, that's one of the big reasons, I started this is just realizing there's so much suffering going on in the
There
world.
really is.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what can we do? What can I do? And I even got present to my own suffering too, right? And, just looked at like, wow, I mean, what can I do in my own life? And I think, the better we take care of each other. I think the oxygen mask philosophy analogy,
Yeah,
I know we hear it a lot, but I think it's a beautiful one.
I do agree.
It's such a great, in order to take better care of our family, we got to take better care of ourselves. In order to take better care of our clients, we need to take better care of ourselves. And I love how you haven't, you've really challenged that status quo of what is that balance. It kind of reminds me, I've heard people say, well, I put my life on hold, or I put my dream on hold. And I was like, well, you're living your life. You can't really put your life on hold, but I know you've made some decisions that maybe it feels like you're putting your dream on hold, but maybe there's a reframe too. Maybe there's
Yeah.
certain things
Yeah.
like I think there's ways to live our dream now, right? As opposed to, and I know we're kind of going off on a few
No, this
tangents.
is
This is your Venn diagram. This is the family, like the family tree behind you, which I love that, that painting. It's just really, trying to understand that, what's important, to us, how do we want to live our lives? We don't have to put things on hold, and, and we can live our dream now. And it may not be the big dream that we've created, but what's a version of that?
yeah,
Like, that we could start to live now, because maybe what we've created and imagined, we don't necessarily want until we start taking action towards it.
yep,
I think that's where we start to move from insight to action.
yes,
And you had mentioned something earlier that made me think of that too. Like, insights are great, ideas are great. Everything in this world's created twice, right? Once in our mind
yeah.
and once in reality, which I love.
Haven't heard that
So
before. I like
those,
that.
what's that?
I said I haven't heard that before. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've borrowed that from, I mean, I've heard quite a few philosophers say that. Einstein says that, for sure. One of many. Neville Goddard is another one. But yeah, I think really getting clear about what we want, I think is also a way to access more joy.
Yeah.
Um, and I know we've got like several layers of conversations in
Dude,
here,
this is fantastic.
and I think that most people like don't know what they want. That's why I started doing those still center retreats is, I realized that, most people weren't really clear about what they want. And the people that were clear about what they want didn't always know how to get what they wanted. So how do we get out of our own way? What are those obstacles? And I call them perceived obstacles too. Like, what are those things that are blocking joy? I love to ask you, like, what are those things that get in the way for you? You kind of shared some different things, like kind of getting out of your head and into your body as a way to kind of move through some of those. But what are those things that kind of block joy for you in your life?
Yeah, that's it's really contextual.
Hmm.
The I love discussing ideas. So in order to answer that, it's almost the opposite of the things that block joy for me. Getting too much in my head, and when I get too much in my head, in a negative sense, it's because deep down I have some fear of judgment. That's the I know myself well enough to know that that's where so all of my blocks to joy are reactions to the things around me or inside of me. I don't like unnecessarily combative environments. I don't like getting mired in details. I don't like repetitive tasks. I don't like
Right.
but
Yeah.
what I
Ditto, ditto, ditto. Just on that. I was like, that sounds like me.
And here's an interesting thing. One of the things I loved the most in my martial arts training is sparring.
Wow.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But it's not a fight,
Right.
right? It's an opportunity to explore physical concepts and movement in three-dimensional
Mm.
space. I just made that up. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it sounded really good in my head.
We're gonna have to listen to this part a few times, actually. Yeah. Note to self: decipher at 38 minutes what Gord was talking about. No, no, it sounds amazing. I love it because it's like you get an opportunity. You probably have to be so present
Yeah,
too,
you
like
can't
when
you
you're
can't be
in that
yeah,
in that situation,
and it
right?
can't be
So I mean
anything
that
but.
No, right. Because if you start drifting off, you're going to get
Or if you start overly
knocked out.
anticipating, right?
Right.
There's a
That's
level of
interesting.
need to anticipate, right? So you see
Okay.
somebody
Right.
position themselves in a certain way, and in a split second, you have to be able to calculate, is that person are they cocking their arm to go to do something? Are they positioning so they can use their leg in this but you can't be conscious of it. Because if you the amount of time it takes to articulate the amount of time it takes to articulate that thought, well, the person's already done whatever it was they're going to do. So like there's a really interesting, but the reason that I use that as the example is I don't mind, I'm not afraid of conflict and I don't mind conflict. What I don't like is unnecessary, yeah, unnecessary conflict. Like there are times where you need a good argument to help figure out a way forward, particularly in a business situation where you're working with a bunch of different people and there is no right answer. So you need to be able to, and in certain cultures that cultivate this well, you can have heated discussions, heated debates, um, but they don't have to be full of judgment and ridicule and put down. And unfortunately, too many of them do, right? Far too often. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I do think that that was one of those places where, um, if you can lead in an environment where you invite good discussion without it turning into um, domination,
Right. Yeah. Where it's about being right.
yeah,
It's
it
about,
shouldn't be. It's
it's
about,
about power. It's about force, I guess. In that case, it's more
yeah,
about force. You're forcing your opinion. You just want to be right. It's
and
not
at
about
some
really
point,
respect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, Greg.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and at some point, someone has to make a decision, right? So at some point,
Hmm.
somebody's going to have to say, "Okay, I've heard everything. I
Right.
appreciate it. This is the way we're going." Right? I mean,
Hmm.
but there's a way to do that that says, "Thank you, everybody, for your contribution. I will now make
Yeah.
my decision, and off we go." Um, or there's a way that, as you said, it's dominating. It's combative. Um, so those environments,
Hmm.
the dominating, combative, non-collaborative ones, I don't function well in. That's not the kind of
Right.
competition that I enjoy. I do
Yeah. Got it.
believe that deep down humans thrive in some level of, I'm stumbling on the word. Call it competition. Call it
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's because we evolve over millennia to have
Hmm.
to compete with our environment and then find some way to live in harmony with it. Right. So if you think about like the growth and development of a person, right, you start being completely dependent on somebody else for your survival. You slowly but surely learn independence, where you fight against everything that's been keeping you alive, aka
Right.
parents or your family.
Right.
Eventually, right, you achieve maturity and you come back being like, wait a second, we are interdependent and need to live in harmony with the people in
Right.
the environment around us.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah,
Is this where we talk about how men mature at a much slower rate? Is this that's a separate podcast, but it is true.
so much.
We're just gonna own it. We just need to own it. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's part of
there
it.
is no argument there whatsoever.
Well, you mentioned competition too, and what came to my mind is, yeah, I mean, I won't see you as competitive in a discussion standpoint. I find you very curious.
Thank you. I like
Like,
that of
because
myself.
and when you're like, when you ask a question, it's not because you're trying to, enforce or force your opinion. You're legit curious. You really want to understand that person's point of view because maybe it may have an impact on your point of view,
Yeah.
right? You're like, oh, maybe that's something that I want to take into consideration. So you kind of come in, wide open and curious, and it's not about being right. That's another thing I love about you is you are as interesting as you are. You're very interesting.
Thank you.
You don't come across as trying to share that with everyone. There's that distinction between being interesting, which is making it about you, versus being interested and making it about the other person. And you're very much interested. You'll share your own personal experience, but it's not the Gord show. you're there to learn. Like you're just very, focused on the other person. You got to I've got to be intentional to ask you questions or you're going to fire 20 at me in a row. So it's like, I want to learn more about you. Yeah. Give me cause you're just so like when you get in there, and again, not from a competitive standpoint, but from a curiosity.
I I worked with a gentleman a bunch of years ago, and we ended up becoming really, really good friends. And we had this so I worked in distribution at the time, and I worked in my office was in a particular branch, and we sold electrical things for the electrical industry.
Right.
And often he would be the last one, just tidying up, making sure everything was closed in the branch, and I was in my office. And I hate traffic, so I would usually wait until after rush hour before I would drive home. I don't like sitting in traffic. So but he'd come and knock and be like, "Hey, Gord, I'm just heading off." And the next thing you know, we'd have a half an hour conversation about stuff. And one of the conversations or one of the themes that kept coming back was competitiveness. He was competitive, a hockey player, very competitive. Like his view of competition was against other people. And that's not my type of competition. My competition is really against myself, against who I was yesterday, who I want to be in the future, but also it's competitive against situations. And I would much rather work with a group of people to solve problems than whether or not I am right. Now, don't get me wrong.
That's a great
the
distinction.
barks in the background that tries. No, Gord, you figured it out, but I try not to live that way as much as I can.
No, I love that. I think that's a really cool distinction. I'm not sure if I've heard it kind of expressed that way before. Very interesting. And what came to my mind is I know there's one thing that we differ on. I'm hyper competitive in sports situations. But the thing is, because that brings me joy.
Yes.
Like I want to win.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't want to win at the cost of the other person's joy.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm going to do my best, and I'm not going to cheat, and I'm going to give it my all, but I'm not going to be a sore winner. And if I don't win, I'm also not going to be a sore loser.
Yeah.
Because then I'm coming out thinking, you know what? I gave it my best shot. They're obviously way better at it than me. And, they earned it. Or even if they weren't better, they played better that day or whatever. Right. But it's like still having fun. Because me, that's the joy. I mean, I know people that are so competitive that they're miserable when they lose.
Yes.
Right. Or they're even a sore winner when they win. And it's like, where's the joy in that for anyone?
Yeah.
Like, is that, anyway. That's a whole.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but what are your top sports? What are the things that you like to play the most?
I mean, my golf's probably a big one. Tennis, I enjoy playing tennis. I haven't played that in a while, but definitely tennis is up there. I've been threatening to get back into it. Beach volleyball, same thing, threatening to get back into that, which is a lot of fun. Not 2-on-2, not that kind of competitiveness. I'm not that good at beach volleyball. Skiing, downhill skiing. Yeah. Same kind of thing. Running. I mean, that's more of a group sport or whatever. But I know you're a big kung fu guy. What are some of your other sports that bring you joy?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you mention that about sports, I don't want to misrepresent myself. When I'm playing a game or a sport, I want to win. But I agree with you. I don't want to win at the expense of the other person. I want to win because I earned it. So here's a weird, again, when you were speaking, this popped in my head. One of my absolute closest friends introduced me to my wife. We went to university together. And I don't know if you remember like Doom and Duke Nukem and those video games.
No, I never played Doom or Nukem. No.
Okay,
I mean, I was like more like Centipede, Asteroids.
We're not that far apart in age, are we? Come on.
No, I think those are newer versions. I think
Doom is
a
it's a first person shooter, and back in the day when it was just on a computer. Anyhow, my buddy got cheat codes for it. He's like, hey, put in the cheat code, you get like ultimate life or unlimited ammo or whatever. I'm like, well, no, because that would take away the joy. Like I'm playing
the joy of winning.
Yeah, like I'm playing as in, like, don't get me wrong, we'll get frustrated if I can't move past a certain And I think the same thing comes to it. So me growing up, I played soccer, I played baseball,
Yeah.
played volleyball for a little bit, tried out for
Mhm.
basketball. In my very first game, I scored my own net. So I think I was in grade five. I was like, nope, that's it. Your comment about
Oh my God. Hey, just real quickly on the basketball
yeah.
thing. I think I was third string. So I did, football when I was a kid, and I did soccer as well. I did baseball. I pretty much tried everything. And basketball, I was on the high school team, I think third string. There was one game where we're killing the other team, so I got to go in. It was, I think, the only game
Uh,
that I went in, and they passed, someone passed me the ball, and I ended up shooting it, and I ended up scoring, and that was my 2 points for the season.
nice.
That was the only time I played and I scored. But in that one sense, I realized like, oh, this is what it feels like,
Yeah.
to actually,
Yep.
score a score 2 points, make a shot,
Yeah.
score a goal, right? Whatever that was. It was kind of like, ooh, that was a nice little glimpse, nice little joy. So sorry, you were about to say something.
Uh, yeah. I think the two thoughts. Uh, One is I'll just share a little bit on as a kid. And this took me a long time. It was actually I credit university and kung fu not necessarily at the same time for helping me work through this. But as a kid, I hated losing to the point that I would stop doing something or I would avoid doing something if I wasn't good at it. So it was one of those things. If I was naturally good at it, hey, no problem. But if I wasn't, and I went away. And again, I said earlier, I know where this comes from. Somewhere deep inside, there's the fear of judgment. Well, that's what, so, um, and I say I credit university. I'm not sure that there's any particular thing at university for me, but there was that period of time. And towards the back end of university is when I started training martial arts, and I found a love for getting better at something you're not good at. So maybe it was just, I was maturing, late teens, early 20s. Maybe it was just like, who knows? But at that time, I ended up discovering that there's a lot of joy in learning and doing something new, even if you're not good at it. Um, the other thing was that the sports you mentioned that you love, so tennis, volleyball to some extent, maybe that one doesn't count, running. I tend towards individual sports.
Yeah, no, that's where I ended up actually. I was like, I think I suck at all the team sports. And it's like, I think I'm a good team player, but
Yeah,
I think you need to be a good team player and to be good at the sport to really
agree.
excel. So
I
I was missing I was missing half the equation.
totally agree. Yeah, no, I got into competitive badminton as a kid. Um, Great example. I went I did really, really well. Went to my first tournament. I crushed it on day one, and day two, I lost in my first game and I was destroyed. And I was like, that's it. I'm not playing badminton anymore. I was like 11 or 12 years old. Like I was like, no, I still played a little bit more, but I was no longer serious about it the way I was. But no, I grew up skiing. I did play baseball and soccer, played those sort of things. My parents thought it was really important for me to be in a team environment and have to live through the commitment of joining something, even if you didn't enjoy it, kind of as
Right.
you went through. Um,
Like a lot of people do with their jobs.
yeah, well, yeah, well, that's just
Basically,
well,
right?
that's a really
Yeah.
good. Well,
Yeah.
not to get too heavy, but
Unfortunately.
there, there's there are too many people doing that in too many spots of their life, including
Yeah. Sure.
marriage, having
Yeah,
kids,
right.
having a
Yeah.
career. Like you got a couple of bad days, you get a couple of arguments, you don't like this one person you work with. Oh, I got to go and chase something. And I believe back to like joy blockers. I think one of the joy
Yeah.
is
Joy blockers. I love it. That's so good. I'll
it
be
should be a
using that one.
band. Do you play an instrument?
Yeah, that's right.
The joy blockers.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so the I grew up playing I gravitate towards individuals. So like skiing, kung fu. I love squash. Absolutely love
Mhm.
squash. I'm horrible at tennis because I grew up playing badminton and squash, so I can't control my
Right.
wrist well enough to
Okay.
play tennis.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
But I
love it.
also I think that's where my yeah, I don't know where it came from. I was gonna say I think that's where my competitiveness with me, not about the person I'm playing. Don't get me wrong, I'm still trying to
Yeah.
beat the person I'm playing, but
Right.
when I don't when I get frustrated or when I cannot win or whatever, my frustration is never at the other person. I'm never like, oh, you suck, or
Mm.
you this, or you, oh, you cheated, or you.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh, Gord,
No.
do better, try
Yeah.
harder, run faster, or whatever it is.
No misdirected frustration or anger there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I came into in the last decade that I absolutely love, that goes back to joy, right? And
Mm.
I got into obstacle course racing.
Oh, wow.
So like Spartan races and things like that. And
Okay.
the joke I had, people are like, well, why don't you just run or what? I'm like, I don't enjoy running for the sake of running.
Yeah. Right.
I love pretending I'm a kid and I get to
Okay.
climb over walls and carry heavy things and like so it's like the running is just to get to the next activity, right?
Yeah, well, that's cool. Like Tough Mudder, I signed up for
Yeah.
that once, and then I didn't really train, so I ended up not doing it. So I was like,
What are you doing in September, October? You want to do a 5K with me?
oh, I'll do it. Oh, is it a 5K obstacle
Well, yeah,
course?
you can do 5K. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I'm gonna mess this up. There's the sprint is 5K, the super I'm gonna say is 10 or 12K, and then the beast is a half marathon.
Oh, okay.
But I
I
know we
would
can
do
work on
that.
something.
I mean, would you? I mean, I am pretty busy in September and October. I'm just checking my schedule now, but no, I would. Let's definitely. That'd be cool. I'd love to have a kind of something to work towards. Yeah. To,
It's been a couple of years. I did them the first year that I moved back to Ontario, but I haven't done them the last couple of years. So I really want to.
oh, very cool. That'd be a lot of fun to do that with you. Yeah. Let's definitely. Let's find the dates
All
and
right. So it's
get
in.
that.
We're locked in. That means
Yeah,
I have
we're
to
locked in.
do. So
Yeah, I'll do it.
great.
Yeah.
This is
I know that was, it didn't sound like a full on yes, but I'm giving you a full on yes right now.
oh,
It's
very
live.
love that.
Or not live, but it's recorded.
So yeah, I don't know if this links into the last thought that I had based on this meandering conversation is um back to balance, right? So
Yeah,
it
right.
really is it's trying to pull this concept of joy back into balance, right? And
Hmm.
recognizing and then back to that idea of expectations and how
Yeah.
they fit together and where they go. And so the things that block um joy, they're all internal to me. So
Hmm.
nobody can make me feel anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Feelings are mine. They can do whatever they
Yeah.
want. Now, I mean, I guess there's somebody can hit me with a baseball bat and I will feel pain, right? But the way that I
Hmm.
emotionally feel about that situation is going to be up to me and how
Hmm.
I handle it and where I go with it. Same with expectations on life. And I think a lot of the blockages come down to either allowing myself to be in an environment that isn't conducive to me, that I don't enjoy, right? That's my
Right.
choice, right?
Yep.
Or um, accidentally contributing to those environments. Like
Hmm.
um, we have an amazing ability to influence the people around us just by the way we show up. So you show up with
Yeah,
joy and positivity, and it helps to ripple out. But the opposite is also true. And you
I
can
agree.
walk into a room full of like spring in your step and joy and but if the room is not of the same wavelength of energy, it can, you know, it will as humans, we naturally try to find how we're gonna fit in with that group. I mean, we're so
For sure. You can feel it as soon as you walk into a room. And I think,
yeah.
people do have an ability to kind of lift other people up and bring the energy in the room up too. And the opposite. And I think, whether it's at home, it's at work, it's with a friend group, it's definitely something. I think it comes back to being intentional with joy.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to wait for joy,
No.
right? I mean, what are those, we talked a lot, we've covered the gamut, like, different things that bring us joy, what gets in the way of joy? How do we remove those, blockages? How do we access it, again? So I'd say like, I'd love to, before we kind of wrap up, like I'd love for you to tell me, what do you hope people feel, like
You
after listening to this conversation? I mean, because we covered a lot of territory. So what do you hope people feel?
I don't necessarily have a particular feeling I want somebody to walk away from this with. Obviously, I hope that they have enjoyed the conversation. I hope they've got a chuckle and a giggle. I hope they've been able to pull a couple of insights, and those insights likely aren't things that they have never heard before. They're likely not, All of human history is filled with incredible amounts of knowledge and wisdom, but maybe it was said in a way that made them go, "Oh, I haven't thought about it that way," or, "Oh, I could. Oh, yeah, okay. No, I didn't." Like just a couple of little things that they can go, "Oh." And I think the if I was going to leave people with anything, it is there are a whole bunch of cliches out there, and some of them are very, very true, right? So like, it isn't about the destination; it really is about the journey. That it is cliche. I don't like, but but it is true. Live in the present because it's a gift or whatever that term
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah. No,
It's a
I
gift.
agree. Yeah.
It's
It is a gift.
but it's also true, and that's where you're going to
Mhm.
find. Um, and I think I don't know if I said this, but I think the other thing is that everything is contextual. So one of the
Right.
challenges that I have in my industry, and to be quite frank, in our model world or modern world, is that everybody has this binary approach. It's this, not this. It's that, not
Right.
that.
Right. Black and white.
Yeah, and what works for me won't necessarily work for somebody else, right? Greg, I think
Yeah,
you and I have discovered that
for
we
sure.
probably overlap 60%, right?
Mhm.
We both like to be physically active in the world. We both like to, but that doesn't mean that somebody who finds joy in quiet, peaceful contemplation is somehow doing it wrong,
Right.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
so like it really comes down to finding ways to be as present as possible,
Mhm.
embracing the fact that we are full physical, emotional, and energy-based beings. If you want to get into,
Yeah.
quant quantum theory, we're all wavelengths, but at the end of the day, right? And then in midway through my 20s, so my late 20s, I actually went back to school for animation and graphic arts. And I had this idea that I was going to draw comics or get involved with movies, and I hadn't done a lot of sculpture before then. And we got to do a lot of work with clay. I see joy. Sorry, in the way that I did sculpture, it was about uncovering the form that was in the lump of clay.
Yeah, right. Michelangelo.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic. I can't remember the name of the book. There's a fantastic, super thick, really dense, amazing book about his life that I read.
Mhm.
And yeah, it taught you like he's like, I didn't create anything. I just brought it out. I just brought out
I
what
just
was,
chiseled away what wasn't part of the final,
yeah,
result or however he said it. Yeah,
yeah.
no, remarkable.
And I think that's the way.
Mm.
I think that is a healthy way and a constructive way to look at joy in life. It's not so much about what do I add to my life to be joyous. It
Mhm.
is what are the things that I need to remove so that
Yeah,
I can experience more joy.
right.
Way easier said than done. But I do think that
Mm.
that's a fundamental shift that again, if somebody can take that away and be like, "Oh, shoot, I hadn't thought of it that way." Right. I'm not externally seeking. Joy is internal. It's not external. Right? It's
Mhm.
it's your
Exactly.
internal experience within the world. So,
No, I think that's very well said because we often think of it as the reward for doing something, achieving something, or a result of something, or an outcome of something. Whereas, like you can make the journey. Like there's that Buddhist expression, which is very similar to what you said. We journey to the end, but in the end, it's the journey. So, what can we do to make the journey, more fun and enjoy? Because that's really what it's all about, right? That's where we learn. So. Well, Gord, this has been such an awesome conversation. So,
yeah.
I mean, what I appreciate most about you is, how grounded, not like when you were a kid, but how grounded and real you are in your approach to life and leadership and balance. The way you talk about balance and the way you approach that and how you don't compartmentalize, your personal life and your business life. You're the same person in both. I think is great, and
Yeah.
you bring this, you do bring a balance of discipline, humanity, and humor to everything you do. So maybe that's the balance, that you bring a little different than, what we were talking about before. And, and I've known this for a while. I mean, you're not just helping leaders succeed, you're helping them do it in a way that's more intentional and more sustainable and honestly more enjoyable.
Yes.
I got joy in there
Yeah.
too, right?
Look.
And that matters, right? I mean, that really matters. The enjoyment,
Yeah.
matters for sure. So yeah, so thank you not just for this conversation, but for the impact you're making with me, as your friend and for your the impact you're making with your family, your clients, your other friends, and everyone you come into contact with.
Great,
So
thank
thank
you.
you.
And well, right back at you. I've
Uh,
got one last thing, if you don't mind me throwing it in.
yeah, no, get it in there. Yeah.
Just as you were talking towards the end, in
Yeah.
terms of like making things more joyful, and not just with clients, but there was
Mhm.
something that has struck me, or come back. My daughter's 6, right? So lots of fun, lots of.
Right.
We learn best and we experience life best when we're in a state of play. My wife has a brain science and early childhood development background, and so I've got to learn a lot from her, plus having a kid and watching it come to. But at the end of the day, kids learn through doing, touching, feeling, and it turns into play. And if you think about like the when we are doing our best, when we're our most creative, when we're our most successful, but there's an element of playfulness that I think we can bring, and that I think is often missing, because you can be playful and still be serious. You can be playful and still dealing with hard work, right? Like any sports team, right? And that's not to say that there isn't a time and place for serious pressure. There totally is. Like that is necessary, in a lot of cases. But approaching stuff with a playful, particularly the things that aren't life and death, approaching them with a little bit more of a sense of play in any part of your life, I think it has a massively positive impact for yourself, but also for everyone around, right? Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, Gord. I think I incorporate play into corporate retreats. I think it's an amazing way for team members to get to know each other in a different way if they haven't experienced that already, right? To learn another side of them, right? To share a different side of them, to not take things so seriously because we're out of the office, we're on a retreat, we're at a place where we can push the boundaries a little bit in a good way,
yeah,
right? And I think play is something that's missing. I think, fun in the office, again, when, if you hear people kind of laughing in the hallway, most typical executives would think, they're wasting time, they're being unproductive,
yeah,
they're not taking themselves seriously enough, as opposed to, wow, we did a great job of hiring.
yes,
Listen to how well they get along. Imagine how that's going to translate
yeah,
into customer service, innovation,
yeah,
teamwork, just engagement, the whole thing. So I think play is underrated. And I think often leaders think of it in terms of child's play. So I've been talking about it more instead of playfulness or playful or play. And I agree with everything you said. I've been talking about it as fun, like
ooh,
how can
yeah,
we
yeah.
have
How can we have
fun?
fun? Yeah, yeah,
Because I think it's an easier, because again, speaking contextually,
yeah.
you know, it's it's easier to have that conversation, I think, with senior level executives. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, thanks for squeezing in that last joy gem, that last little nugget in there.
Joy
So
Jim, I love
appreciate
it.
it.
Well,
All right. Well, thanks again, Gord. And then to everyone listening, thank you for your time and energy. And if something from this conversation resonated with you, don't just let it sit there. We talked about, insights and ideas, and really the gold comes in taking action and really putting into place. So take an idea, take an insight, take a small shift and put it into action, take action on it sooner than later, because joy isn't something we stumble into. It's something that we choose intentionally. So thanks for being here. And as always, live, work, and lead with more joy. We'll see you next time on JOY². Cheers.
great. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Thanks, Gord. Cheers. Thanks for spending this time with us on JOY², where joy multiplies and everything gets better. Remember, joy isn't just something you feel, it's something you create, and it's something you pass on. If this conversation sparks something in you, share it, because joy is contagious. What we're building here is bigger than a podcast. It's a reminder and a movement that how we live, work, and lead truly matters. Until next time, live with joy, lead with purpose, and never forget to have fun. Keep choosing joy squared. And if you're enjoying the journey, we'd be grateful if you subscribe, like, and share JOY² so the ripple keeps spreading.